Hello, and welcome to the Fiber Circus. This is episode 11, and it is December the 19th. I'm your host, Elizabeth, coming to you from southern Indiana, where I have a hand-dyeing and alpaca farm business called Spotted Circus. If you'd like to get a hold of me, you can contact me on Facebook, Instagram, and Ravelry as Spotted Circus, or you can visit our website at spottedcircus.com, or get a hold of me in the comments below. If you haven't already hit subscribe right down here and hit the like button, because that definitely helps us get a few more viewers out there. So if you're a returning viewer, thanks a lot for coming back, and if you're a new viewer, I hope that you enjoy the fibery fun today. So, last episode I talked about how I was going to do Vlogmas and then promptly stopped doing Vlogmas the next day. I figured out that basically my Vlogmas consisted of what it was I was knitting on that day, which is kind of then all what I talked about in the podcast in the next episode, so it's kind of pointless. I realized that really, I don't leave the house that often anymore, and so it's kind of boring to watch my Vlogmas. Nothing much exciting happens. So, we stopped Vlogmas. Good try. Maybe next year I'll be a little bit more exciting. I enjoy watching everybody else's Vlogmases, though, at least. So, today's work in progress. I've worked a little bit on my Dust of Snow wrap by Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade. And at the last episode, I was down there where that stitch marker is. So since then, I've gone up into the oranges and up into the yellows. So now, we're starting out with the reds, to the pinks, to the orange, to the yellows. And this is all made from a mini set from Stitch Together Studio. I am currently on, color number 9 out of 24. I seem to think that I was going to keep up with this and do every single day as an advent, but if today's the 19th, then I'm 10 days behind. I'll get it done somewhat soonish. I am 35% through it according to my instructions at least. So I'm making progress on it. It's a pretty calming knit. It's not a hard knit by any means, because you have these nice garter rest rows. So I definitely recommend the pattern. It was well written, and it's a nice use of all your mini skeins. And that's currently living in my octopus bag from Star Knits. And it's just about the right size so far. The other work in progress was I decided I should finally get my button gear and work on my Evenflow cardigan. When I last left off, I had held up my Evenflow and said, I can't quite tell how far it is I need to go to whether or not I can do the ribbing. Well, when I finally sat down and measured it, I was ready to start the ribbing. So, I did the ribbing out around the bottom there. It was 1x1 ribbing. I hate 1x1 ribbing. It takes forever. But I got it done, and then I actually picked up for the collar. So I've knit all of this, and this is where my pockets are going to go in at. I have done a welted back collar, which I'd never done that before, but that's interesting. And this other side, and I've just started knitting on the inner pocket lining. So after this, so I have this pocket lining to go. And then I need to work on the second pocket. And once I get it done, I join the pockets with the edge of the collar that I'm working on. And I think I only have 8 or 9 more rows once I join the pockets together. And then the fronts will be done. So then I have Sleeve Island to work on. I had to pick up all these stitches along this entire edge. I hate picking up stitches. I really need to remember this in the future, because this is 2 cardigans now I've done where I've had to pick up sleeves or pick up stitches for cardigan fronts, and I really don't like doing it. I'm not awesome at picking up at specific ratios, and it's just not very fun to do. I am alternating skeins every row because I had 7 skeins total, and 6 skeins kind of went into pairings of 2s, where 2 sets were kind of pink looking, 2 were more purpley, and 2 were more green. So every single row is a different yarn, except on the pockets, because I decided I don't care on the pockets because they're going to be inside and nobody's going to see them. So that's where I'm at with my Evenflow. When I actually sit down to work on it, I make pretty good progress. The pockets really shouldn't take that long, but flipping it back and forth continually gets to be kind of old when it's that large. I kind of wish that the instructions had said to do the pockets right after you originally cast on. But, lesson learned. It's living in my cute little kids with fireflies still, but the Bags by Awesome Granny bag. And that's all that I've really been working on the last 2 weeks, because I've had a couple of vending events in between, and I've done a lot of knitting actually at those too. I haven't cast anything on because I've been good. I'm telling myself I really need to finish this sweater before I start casting on any new projects. And by saying that, technically I'm not really counting any of my machine knitting things as casting on, because I tend to finish them in between episodes. So technically they're not a new project. Finished objects though, I did several alpaca cowls for my vending events that I finished up. And then I have also finished a mermaid blanket on my knitting machine. At Thanksgiving when I went back home, one of my cousin's daughters sat down to eat near me at Thanksgiving, so I started talking to her and asked her what she wanted to be when she grew up. And she informed me that she wanted to be a cheerleader, pirate, mermaid mom. Interesting. Very interesting goals, I thought. I also kind of question, is she going to have fish babies or is she going to have human babies? If she's a pirate mermaid, when she transforms on land from a mermaid to a pirate, will she only have one leg? So I decided that she was a knitworthy child, because she actually came up and chatted with me instead of running around like a crazy kid. So I asked her mom, if she thought that she might like a mermaid blanket and what color she might like. And she said pink. So I looked around online for a machine knitting pattern for mermaid blankets, and I found a couple, but they used a ribber, and I don't have a ribber yet for my bulky machine. So I had to kind of do some improvising and creativity. I knit it in acrylic, because it's going to be a blanket for a kid. It needs to be washed. And I used With Love yarn from Red Heart because it's pink and sparkly. And look at this pink sparkly craziness that's going to blow out the camera. So I tried to do a pattern that looks a little fish scaly. And it goes down, and then it tapers. And then I designed these fish tails all on my own, which they're kind of hard to see because they're so big. I think they kind of look like a mermaidy tail. It's just a real simple knit stitch there. But the fun part was, these were knit flat, so this is entirely seamed. And then my mermaid tail was also knit flat. So I think it's something like 30 some odd inches, 30 plus inches long, and I think 20 plus inches around. I think this should fit like a 10 or 11-year-old kid. I mean, it's pretty stretchy. We're going to hope and pray that she fits into it. I think it's definitely long enough. And she's a pretty lean child, so I'm going to sneak it to her at Christmas, because none of the other relatives' kids got gifts. Because, hey, you don't talk to your auntie, cousin person, who has cool alpacas and stuff. I'm not going to knit you anything cool. I mean, I could have made some dinosaur hats, or like Viking beard hats and stuff. Nobody bothered to chat with me, so, you snooze, you lose. So, I got this done. I think it took 4.5 balls of that yarn. I knit the body section in less than a day, and I would have been able to do the flippers too, but I got distracted by a few other things and didn't finish it. But then seaming took me one movie. What was it? Has Keanu Reeves in it, and he's a hitman killer. And there's a second movie, and I thought that they were really kind of stupid. But my husband wanted to watch them, so I did. So I seamed instead. So that way I could kind of pay attention. So that was knit on my Brother 260 bulky machine, though. Other machine knitting. So I've been working on some custom knits for an alpaca farm, and unfortunately most of the yarn that they sent me it's right on the cusp of being a sporty DK, and it's too thick to run through my fine gauge machine, and it's too thin to run through my standard gauge. So they had one cone of fingering, so I said, okay, I'm going to make those into hats. And so I made this hat. However, I picked it up about a row too early, I think, and so it's not quite laying the way I want it to. It looks alright. I mean, it's 100% alpaca, and it's going to be going out to Colorado, so I think it'll go well for sale. But it's a little bit small, too. So I've had to increase the size on it, and I spent most of the day on Monday working on a duplicate of this hat, and I got clear up to this point where I did the blue, and I dropped the entire thing off the machine. And that's 160 stitches to attempt to get back on the machine, and that happened 3 times, and it kind of pissed me off. So, I haven't finished that hat yet. However, I need to, because I have a bit of a deadline with these that I need to get them done by. But this yarn is just fighting me. And part of it is, it's very loosely plied. So if you look at this yarn, let's see if it'll focus here. So you can see the ply is very, very loose. There's not a very tight angle in this stuff. And so it's very easy to actually untwist it. And so it's getting stuck in my needles. It's also really, really fuzzy. And part of that is because the fact it's so underplied. So it's fighting me, and that doesn't make for a very pleasant knitting experience. I know I just need to slog through and get it done, but they're kind of making me angry right now. So I was posting up some pictures of several of the alpaca cowls that I had made, and I had a former high school classmate say, hey, will you make me one of those hats but with ear flaps? And I said, well, would you like a rainbow pom-pom for the top too? She's like, yes. So I made one yesterday, and this is my alpaca's pattern. It could also be pinatas technically. The yarn is a self-striping wool and sparkle yarn that I've dyed up, and the gray is an acrylic. And I made the hat, but it's a little bit too small. I mean, it'll kind of fit. I need to seam it still too, but it'll kind of fit me, but it's a little bit tight. So I made a second one, because you know, it's not like it took me forever. And this one I think will be much better. It's bigger. And what I'll do is I'll put some braided multicolored tassels on the end, and I'm going to put a pom-pom on the top. And I can kind of show you what the back looks like. So these hats are knit. This is knit flat as a liner, and then I knit the ear flaps, which are basically heels, and then I engage the patterning, which does the alpacas. And I knit a liner because the inside looks like this. There's really long floats across, so you can see right here's where the alpaca is being formed, and then this section's actually knit in gray. And so as a result, in hand knitting I'd pick up these floats every 3 stitches. However, in machine knitting, if I attempt to hang these floats, they'll actually show through on the other side. So the easiest solution to that is to actually knit a liner for it. So I need to seam this. This looks like it's going to fit quite a bit better though. And I'll put a big pom-pom on it, and I will get it out to her. I may just deliver it to her because I'm going over to my parents' next week for Christmas, and she lives over there still too. So hopefully she likes her neon alpaca hat. I do have this same pattern in a cowl in gray and in black in my Etsy store right now, if you like my crazy alpaca piñatas. So that turned out pretty well, as long as I get it seamed up in time. And then the other thing I've been working on with my machine knitting is getting all my machines up and 100% functioning with all the tools that they need to have with them. And that's because I'm going to start teaching some machine knitting classes in 2019. Some people, it's interesting, so my Facebook groups for machine knitting, they took polls on, you know, how old are you, you know, and where are you from for all the machine knitters. And it was kind of interesting to see on Facebook, the average age, I bet, was 60 to 75. So it's an older generation of machine knitters. And I participate in some live webinars on Tuesdays from the Knit It Now website, where they do free tutorials on Tuesdays that they stream. And it's interesting because they've asked questions in there like, how advanced do you consider yourself? And there's people on there that have been knitting for 30 plus years and still don't feel comfortable with using their ribbers. Whereas I've been knitting since... when did I pick up my machines? I want to say it was like middle of this year, like May. No, it had to have been before May. Like April or May-ish, roughly. And I'm already using my machines using both beds, using double bed jacquard, which is a double-faced fabric. And I got into it hardcore, and I just started knitting and didn't look back. I mean, you know, you aren't... when you're practicing with acrylic, it's not exactly expensive if you ruin it, and you just cut it off and start all over again. So I'm going to start teaching classes coming in February on my machines. So I'm attempting to look at all my machines, make sure are all the parts there that I need. Are they 100% functioning the way that they should be functioning? And what do I still need to make sure that I've got enough to teach with? Currently, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 machines. I had to think about that for a second. And I kind of already know what I'm getting for Christmas, and it's another estate sale, which has 4 more machines in it. Some of those machines are going to be going up for sale. So my current machines, I have a bulky Brother 260, and I'm going to have a second one of those plus a ribber. I have 2 Toyota 901s and 1 ribber. I will have 3 Brother 930 electrics, 2 Brother 890s, and 1 Brother 970 and a few ribbers thrown in there. So that'll take me up to like 9 machines. So my class is going to be open for 10 people because I know that some people already have machines of their own. And if I throw in my bulkies, I can still teach people on those. So I'm trying to make sure that everything works because most of these machines are from the mid 80s to 90s. And the plastic is getting old and brittle. So I'm trying to be somewhat delicate with transporting them. I'm sure some people would have a conniption fit going, oh my god, you're going to drive around with a bunch of electronic knitting machines. And I'm thinking, this may sound kind of cheesy, but I may actually blow up an air mattress and put it in the back of my van and transport them on top of that to help minimize the bumps to the electronics. It's just kind of my thought on how it is that it might work. So I'm going to be getting ready for that. Acquisitions. I have 1. I listened to the F This Knit podcast, and it's 3 lovely ladies out of Kentucky, and they had gone up to Vogue Knitting Live up in Minnesota. And when they went up there, they stopped by Stephen B's awesome yarn store, which I would love to go visit because he totally seems like somebody I would get along with well because he has crazy colors and crazy fun stuff. And they offered a coupon code for Stephen B. So I looked online just to kind of see what they had. And I found a really kind of cool mini skein set. And for some reason, I'm into these mini skeins recently. And it's by a dyer that I hadn't really heard of. And it's called In the Deep Hue Sea. And this is her charcoal rainbow minis. And they are, let's see, superwash merino, 25% nylon. And this is approximately 463 yards. And check out this awesomeness. So it starts with a deep purple and charcoaly black, and then runs through the blues and the aquas and the greens and the yellows and the oranges and the reds. So it's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mini skeins. I think this would kind of look cool as a shawl on its own. You know, just starting with one color and gradiating out to it. I've also seen there's a sweater. What's it called? It's a rainbow something. There's also the Marled Mania sweater by Stephen West, who I seem to be like fascinated with his designs recently because they're so crazy. But that would kind of look cool in there too. And I could technically throw like a solid black in with these in order to make it go a little bit farther. So I'm not real sure. I love the way that they package these though. So all these mini skeins, they're basically bent in half, and then there's this ring up here holding it together. But this is solid. Like, this could be yarn self-defense if you tried. You know, it's not quite as firm as a skein of Woolamiza. Let me see. I know I have a skein back up in here. Where's my Woolamiza pile? Well, my Woolamiza has disappeared. I hope nobody has stolen it. I have a feeling that it's just out in the other room now that I think about it. But Woolamiza can also be used as an intruder protection device because it's a very firm skein. But this, I mean, it stands up on its own. You could do some damage if you needed to. So it's another great excuse to buy yarn. Self-defense. Travel. So I'm getting ready to start traveling again after Christmas goes by here. The January 24th and 25th, I'll be out in Denver, Colorado at the National Western Stock Show to judge the International Yak Competition. And I'll be judging the fiber on the yak, and then I will also be judging the fiber arts and skein competition for yaks. And that's going to be a really fun time. I'll be out there for 2 days judging on, I think judging is Thursday and Friday. So if you're in the area, come out to the stockyards. You'll be able to see the yaks pretty easily. There's Tibetan prayer flags flying in that area. And it's really kind of cool to come out and get to see the yaks. After that, February 9th and 10th, I'll be up at Heritage Farm Suri Alpacas up in Flora, Indiana, to teach a machine knitting basics class. And then 2 weeks later, on February 23rd and 24th, I'll be at Rolling Oaks Alpaca Ranch down in Makanda, Illinois, which is the base of Illinois down in southern Illinois by Paducah. And I'll be doing the machine basic knitting class there as well. So you got 2 opportunities in February to get out, have a lot of fun with people. Hopefully we're going to make at least a hat that weekend, if not a heel on a slipper or maybe an ear flap. We'll be doing everything from how to select a machine, the different types of machines, cleaning a machine and maintaining it, and then all the basics such as casting on, binding off, doing short rows, working with a ribber, working on how to get a gauge swatch, and then learning about tuck, slip, fair isle, weaving, I'm forgetting one, lace, and then maybe plating and pin lace, or no, tuck lace, I think is what it's called. You can tell I've never done those 2 because I just haven't had the urge to do them yet or find patterns that I really like. And then I may do some demonstrations on double bed jacquard and circular knitting on the river as well. So it's going to be a very, very full weekend, but it'll give you just enough to see whether or not this is something you think you might enjoy. All you're going to need for it is some yarn. I have the machines, you know, unless you have a machine of your own, in which case get a hold of me and let me know, because I want to make sure that you've got everything to make your machine work before you come. So that's coming up. And then April 19th and 20th, I'll be vending at the Fiber event in Greencastle. And that's just about an hour north of where I live. So for some reason, I haven't been able to get into vend there the last couple of years, and it's driven me nuts. It's also right during when I normally like to share my alpacas. Not the best time of year for this, but it's a good fiber festival, and it's pretty darn local for me, so I can stay at home, which is nice. Currently, I only have a single booth, which sucks, but we'll make it work. I'm on the wait list for a double booth and praying that I can get one because I really prefer to spread out with all my stuff. So that's the majority of the travel. I will have another machine knitting class in upstate New York in, when is it? End of June, possibly. And I'll also be going to Estes Park in June to vend, and I'll be in Colorado in May for some sorting. So stuff's starting to pick up, but there's still a few open spots in my calendar. So if you want to get anything booked, you really should get it done now. So shop update. I've put up a few new things in the shop. Basically, the majority of my acrylic hats, cowls, infinity scarves. There's some merino infinity scarves I've put up for sale that didn't sell at my 2 events that I had. The 2 local vending events were kind of duds. There was like 4 or 5 people that came through to buy things, and it was disappointing and very depressing. But, you know, I'm sorry that they don't understand what quality is. So, all the better for everyone out in the internet world. I got all sorts of good stuff for sale, so if you want to stay warm or get a nice gift for somebody for Christmas, let me know. I can also do custom knitting, as you can tell. So, a couple of things that are going to go up in the shop also. I have my contribution for the Spinning Box Holiday Edition. My holiday that I was dying for was called the Laba Festival, and it's the Rice Porridge Festival. And it is celebrating the enlightenment of Buddha. And I looked around, and I thought, okay, rice porridge. I'm not going to dye something that's just like porridge colored. That's kind of sucky. So I went with milk fiber, and I went with a picture that I had found on the internet of ingredients that are in Laba, such as raisins, almonds, pistachios, that kind of stuff. So this is Laba Festival on milk fiber. And you can see it's got shades of green, blue, gold, and red. And if you've never spun milk fiber before, it's got a nice sheen to it versus a shine like bamboo. And it's also extremely soft. Well, it's very nice fiber. So I think I have a total of 4 4-ounce braids of that going into the shop. So I'll try to get that listed today. The other thing going into the shop is my December spinning box contribution, which was, the fiber was considered to be an au naturel box. So I put in my Alpaca Sparkle roving base, which is a sub 20 micron alpaca that's blended with Starbright nylon. So I know it doesn't look like much here, but if you look, you can catch just the hint of sparkle in it. And it's extremely fine. Very, very clean fiber, but it's got this nice shine to it. So that was my contribution for this month, and I will be putting some of this undyed roving into the shop for sale as well. I also have that in dyed fiber in roving, so it's easy to spin, great yarn, or great fiber. I really like it. I need to get dyeing now on my January contribution for, the theme is Pure Vida, which is like a Costa Rica kind of thing. Not real sure what I'm going to dye yet, but I have till the 5th, so I need to get my butt in gear, get it done. Let's see, I think that's all that's really updated in the shop right now. Thanks a lot to everyone that's made some purchases recently. Our little kitten Mothra ended up in the vet hospital for, how long was she there? I think she was there almost 6 days. She came down with a respiratory bug that one of the other cats had had, but it hit her a lot harder to the point where she couldn't breathe very well. So she spent almost a week in the hospital getting breathing treatments and injections and stuff and blowing her snot all over the vet. So luckily she's recovered. She's come back. So the sideshow today is going to focus on the circus cats. If you're a fiber or yarn person, odds are very likely that you probably have a cat. Not real sure why this is, but I've noticed a lot of other podcasters that also dye yarn have a cat. I have 3 cats. So we're going to take a little trip and we're going to visit the 3 little heathens that we have right now in the house. The 2 older cats are kind of nice and laid back these days. I appreciate that. The kitten is still a bit of a monster, but she's only 8 months old, so kind of to be expected. So that's about it for this week. 2 weeks will be, I think, like the 1st or something, maybe. Shows how up with it I am on my calendars. But anyways, I'll plan on seeing you guys in 2 weeks because I don't have any hot plans otherwise. So I will plan on seeing you then. Bye. So this is Bear Tamer. Bear Tamer is, I think, 13 this year. He's a Serengeti cat. He was not born with this lovely crumpled ear. Unfortunately, that happened one night, I think about 2 years ago. And he likes to lay with us in bed, and he crawled up in between us, and when I rolled over, I nailed him in the ear with my elbow. So he ended up with, like, what they call a cauliflower ear, and he ended up having to have little buttons put in it, and so now he has a permanently crumpled ear. But at one point, he used to be a very fancy show kitty cat. We showed him for quite a while when he was younger, and he was actually featured in a magazine in Japan, and in a breed book for Serengetis. So this is Mr. Bear Tamer. He's mainly my husband's cat. He puts up with me. He's slightly cross-eyed when he gets excited about things, but his favorite occupation currently is sitting on top of the fish aquarium because the fish aquarium light is nice and warm. So this is Bear Tamer's older sister, Ariel, and this was the very first Serengeti kitten that we ever had. And I watched her being born, and when she came out, I was looking at her body going, huh, I wonder if those swirls break up into stripes at some point. Guess what? They don't. They don't magically become spots. And Serengeti cats were bred to be spotted. So, Ariel was a pet. We did actually show her when she was younger, and she took the 4th best household pet kitten in the Great Lakes region. We call her Squirrely. She doesn't have any teeth. She had a gum infection when she was younger that basically caused her teeth to attack her gums and cause permanent infections. So she ended up having all of her teeth pulled. And she's going on 14 now, so she's a little bit old, getting a little skinny. But she does like to sit up next to you. She's very nice and polite and quiet, unlike her little brother here. And then we have the new hellion on the block, Mothra. So Mothra was born in April, so that would make her 8 months old now. And she is a Abyssinian. And she is pure trouble. Her favorite occupation, besides fishing fish out of fish tanks, is to steal yarn. She also has a favorite toy. Let me see if I can find it. Mr. Mustachio. And of course now she's not going to play with it because, you know, she's on camera and that would just be too good of her. She spent a week in the vet hospital last week because she had a horrible upper respiratory infection going on. So she's finally over her sneezing and over her icky eye. She hasn't caught a mouse yet, a real mouse, and we discovered we had a real mouse in the house. So I'm a little bit disappointed in her mousing skills. But she is awfully cute.